For today, we're going to start with just a quick welcome, some introductions. We're going to go over a quick overview as to what's happening in the market today and the shift to oral assessments. And then we'll get into the good fun stuff with an interactive workshop and a demo. So you will leave here today ready with how to actually use Coraltalk and an assignment that you can run next time you teach. We'll end with Q&A along with a special offer just for the folks on this call. And because we know sometimes when you jump into something, you want to keep going, we're also going to stay for an additional 30 minutes to support, and that part of the call will not be recorded. So if you feel shy to ask any questions, that'll be your opportunity to do so. So I'm Melissa, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Coraltalk. You can call me Mel. I'm joined today by my co-founder, Addie, who will be able to help with anything technical, and Miguel Velasco, who actually began as our first customer, and now he is our founding GTM. I also see a few other members on my Coraltalk team. Shout out Ryan, Yusuf, Aman, and we're all here to help. So to make the most of our session today, please have your syllabus handy. Close other tabs because this will help your computer to run as fast as possible. Dial in from your desktop if you are not already on your computer. This is going to be very hard to follow along with if you are on your mobile device. And if possible, please use Google Chrome. Safari does not like Google Meet for some reason, so we find that just to avoid issues, it's best to use Chrome or any other type of browser, but not Safari. And please turn your camera on. That way I can respond and know if there is any sense of confusion or if everyone's having a good time and following along. Okay. Oh, and if you have any questions, you can use the chat. The chat is found in the bottom right-hand corner. It looks like a little chat icon. You can type in there and you can get support. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the classroom. Written work no longer proves understanding. It's time to face the truth. And there's no policy, there's no honor code, there's no detection tool that can reverse this. AI is co-authoring nearly every assignment that your students are submitting. 3 years ago, it was half of students using AI, but today it's 94%. The submission box is no longer a measure of understanding, it's a measure of who has the better prompt. And so you might already be aware of this, but schools are already spending millions of dollars trying to detect AI written work, but detection alone doesn't restore learning, it just polices a broken system. And so let's all ask ourselves as educators in the room today, what format can't be faked? It's not an essay, it's not a quiz, it's being able to talk one-on-one to every student. So I learned this back when I was a teacher. I wanted them to explain it, defend their answers to me, and then hear them think in real time, but obviously professors can't talk to every student until now. So Coraltalk is going to allow you to enable spoken assessment at scale. Your students will get instant personalized feedback based on your rubrics, and you'll get real-time clarity on who understands and who needs support before it's too late. Mashe at the Schulich School of Business, this is an MBA program in a prestigious one at that in Canada, had said you can't not love Coraltalk, completely unprompted. And if you run at least one oral assessment, we know that you'll love us too. So what are we going to learn today? Well, let's start with the 4 key types of tools that Coraltalk has today. So the first is role plays. You can use Coraltalk for simulation-based learning, where the students can practice what they learn in your classroom into real life. We'll also cover VidTickets, which are participation checks and exit tickets for peer-to-peer learning and reflection. So if you've heard of Flipgrid, this is our way of bringing it back from the dead. It's super fun. We'll also cover oral assessments and oral defense, a way for you to see if your students really understood what they wrote. And lastly, we'll also very quickly cover the fact that you can use Coraltalk as a 24/7 AI student tutor that gives your students feedback in any language based on your lecture materials with a very, very low, if not close to 0 hallucination rate. If you teach online, with a click of a button, you can actually turn any of your recorded lectures into an instant oral assessment. So we actually have a bot that can join your online lectures, record your sessions, and then document how students are understanding each one. Okay, now we're gonna jump into the fun stuff. So everyone, please head on over to app.coraltalk.com/signup. Addie will post a link in the chat if you don't want to type that in. And we're going to create our accounts. I know that some of you already have an account, so that's totally fine. If you do, just log in and you're going to see on your dashboard a screen that looks like this one. Scroll down to where it says add syllabus. We'll pick up there in just a moment. So if you are creating an account, I'm gonna switch over here. You should see a screen that looks like this one once you go to app.coraltalk.com/signup. We're going to click on I'm an educator, and then we're going to click on sign up. You'll be prompted to put in your email. 3@gmail.com, and then continue. You'll receive an OTP code that you'll have to put in to sign up. 1581. Okay. And then once it verifies, you should see a screen that looks like this. And then for those that already have an account, scroll down on your home screen and you'll see that add your syllabus. Upload your syllabus into this document and click on generate ideas. Okay. So once you're in here, you should, after dropping in your syllabus, get some personalized ideas on how to create oral assessments. So you'll see week to week, I put in a 12-week course. And so this is giving me ideas for every single week. And you'll see, I alluded to them earlier on the call, but the different types, whether it's generic, role play, or hybrid, and tickets. And we'll talk about these in more detail. So don't worry too much about them. So for now, just click on create all. And this is going to take just a minute here to fully customize it. And then this will give us a starting point. And again, if you don't have a syllabus, don't worry, you don't need one. It just saves you a lot of time and makes your life easy so you don't have to think about how you would use these. And we can edit all of them before we actually send it to any students. I'm going to jump right into a role play. So I'm going to click on my roleplay tab here. There were a few that were created for me, and I think we're going to start with the investor pitch simulation. So you'll find one on yours that you like. At this point, feel free just to watch. You don't have to follow along for this part. I'm going to do the first one, and then for when we create an oral assessment, you'll be able to, we'll get a volunteer, and someone can actually go through this themselves. So we'll click on edit. And then once we click on edit, we can see what the student role is supposed to be, along with Coral's role, and then the student's objective in this scenario. So right now, it's kind of like the car is self-driving and we just have to make some edits as needed. So we're an entrepreneur participating in a pitch event, okay? Let's say we don't want this to be a panel, or maybe it's an impact investor. We want to personalize it, so we can change that. We'll say that it's a 5-minute window, sure. Clearly communicate, and this is what the student will see. So the student will see this before they actually hit start. How will Coral behave in the role play? So if you haven't figured this out already, Coral is the name of AI. So we're going to assign a behavior, attitude, and personality. So we'll say that Coral will adopt a skeptical but professional role. Okay, sure. This looks fine. And then this part, we can actually allow the students to further customize the role play. So for example, in this case, because the student is going to be a founder and Coral is an investor, we can have the student put in information about their startup before they begin the call. So we'll turn it on because that's that extra layer of customization. We'll go to 5 minutes just for the purpose of today's call, but you can go all the way to 20 minutes. If you want to make it longer than this, you can just talk to someone on the team and we can support you. And we also support multiple languages, but for now, we'll use English. Personality traits, you can select 3 there. Again, this is all done for you. You just have to kind of see if this makes sense. We'll keep it to medium for now. And then as you can see, we've created a rubric score guide. So the scoring levels, low, medium, high, this is just based on standard sort of levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, but you can add your own. So this is just our best attempt based on the prompt that was put in of how we can actually assess this. So key indicators are going to be how we actually look to see if a student has addressed the things that pertain to this particular area. So for value proposition, Coral is going to look for if the student defines the problem that the product solves, explains how the product benefits the customer, et cetera, et cetera. And again, you can configure all of these. And if you prefer, you can just add your own. So for now, we leave them turned off because we want the student to see their grade. But if you are like some educators, which is totally cool, you might want to make sure that you agree with the way that Coral has graded before you show that grade automatically to the students. So this is, if you don't want them to see it, you can turn this on. So we'll update this with the small change that I made. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like from the student perspective. And you'll be able to test yours too before sharing it with them. So once the student enters into the link that you share with them, they're going to be met with something that looks like this. So because we actually asked the student to personalize their role play, we're going to do that. So shout out to all of my educators in Malta. I'm from Canada and I just learned about the tap water here. So I'm going to pretend that I've developed a patented shampoo that coats your hair to protect it from calcium and magnesium. And we'll hit start.
Hey Sarah, let's do some role play. For the next 5 minutes or so, I'll be the impact investor and you'll be the entrepreneur. Let's stay in character for the duration of the call. Ready to get started?
Yes, ready to get started.
All right, let's get straight to it. I've reviewed your patent application for that protective shampoo targeting Maltese tap water issues. Interesting approach, but I think some significant gaps in your market analysis that need addressing before we can discuss any investment.
Okay, well, let me start by saying that our market is primarily for women in Malta, which is about 270,000 individuals, and the tourism market is also massive. So we're looking at about 2 million women that come to Malta every year.
2 million women tourists annually? That's like a very specific number. Where are you getting those figures? And more importantly, what percentage of that total market actually experiences the hair damage you're targeting?
We source this information from the NSO, which is the official source for tourist calculations and numbers. And with regards to percentage of the market, I mean, anyone that is using a shower, tap water in Malta here will experience that unless they have a filter. So we can say that number could be roughly anywhere from 50 to 70%. For tourists, it could be even higher depending on where they're staying.
So you're claiming essentially the entire market is your target market. Anyone using tap water in Malta. That's quite a broad claim. How are you defining your actual addressable market? Questions or interest?
Okay, I'm going to end the call just to give you an idea of how that works. So that essentially goes back and forth. If we want Coral to focus on a specific area or specific part of the conversation, we can just build that into the first prompt. Sometimes you'll try it and you'll say, it was too friendly, or it was too fixated perhaps on market size. Maybe we want it to go a little bit broader. So that's where you can actually go back into your over here into the assessment, and you can actually just edit that. So you can click on edit and you can retroactively configure any assessment that you've created. Okay, I got a very generous D and it'll tell me why. So I got a 4 out of 10 on value proposition. It'll actually say what the strengths were from my answer and then areas in which I should be improving. And the evidence will support why Coral gave me the grade that it did. And then this continues all the way down for the rubric. So now as an educator, I understand the importance of sometimes being able to edit this yourself. So that's why we have this button up top. So you can actually go in and you can configure this if you disagree with the way that Coral had graded anything. And you can also retroactively bell curve all of your student submissions if you'd like to at a later date. Once you see, oh, everyone's getting too high of a mark or they're all failing, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case, but you can edit that at any point in time. So that's a role play. Now we're going to toggle over. Let's go back to the sort of interactive version of today's demo and click on oral assessments. So for this, I would actually love to get a volunteer, someone that maybe would like to try this hands-on and trying one out for themselves. Would anyone like to volunteer? Please raise your virtual hand or come off mute.
I can do it.
Thank you, Aiden. You're the best. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I will pass it over to you. If you can share yours. Okay, so click on the create assignment button.
Okay.
Perfect. So let's think of something that you might want to test out for your class.
Let's do connection of method to goal. Yes, that will be a good one. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So now let's just very quickly talk about what you're looking at here. So conversation mode, everyone, this is important. If it's conversational, it's back and forth real-time dialogue, the way that you just heard in the role play. So the student speaks, Coral is going to talk in response, and that interaction will happen again and again. Self-paced is that the student only responds when they're ready. So theoretically, they could check their notes, they could record their reply again. This might be useful for, let's say, if you're grading them on a pitch that they have to do or a presentation where you don't need the back and forth interaction. And then keep scrolling, Aiden. So for grades, we'll leave that on for now, but you can also have this for participation only. We can still provide feedback to your students just in a qualitative way so that they can still improve. And then the assignment type. So this is actually less complicated than it looks. Generic just means all of your students are going to get the same questions. The follow-up questions might be slightly different, but essentially you set those questions, the students get those questions in the conversation. Personalized are custom questions based on what the student uploads. So both personalized and hybrid are for oral defense. So there's always a written component. So if you want your student to upload the essay that they wrote, and then ask them questions about what they allegedly wrote to see if they understand it, you use personalized. And then hybrid is a combination of the two. So perhaps you want all of the students to get some of the same questions, but you also want the assessment to be customized based on their written component. That's when you would use hybrid. Okay, so let's just go.
Where does the student upload the written component when he gets the assignment?
So before they start the conversation, there will be a little field for them to upload their assignment.
Okay.
And then they'll hit start once they've uploaded it. So for now, let's just do generic, hit continue. Okay, so now we're going to set what is the oral assessment testing for. So Aiden, maybe you can just type in a few prompts here. And while you do that, I'll just explain right below where Aiden is showing on his screen right now is the ability for you to upload your own documentation, your own PowerPoint presentation. Maybe you have some of your own materials. So we can actually extract and create questions based on that too. And as I mentioned at the start of the call, if you have a lecture, we can, with the click of a button, create questions from that lecture. So that could be recorded as well.
That should be.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So keep scrolling. So let's keep this one in English. We added through for Aiden last week, but we'll keep it in English for now so everyone can follow along. Set the number of questions, we'll leave it at 5 and then hit continue. So now Coral is using that prompt. We can give a ton to work with, so we'll see how it does, but it's doing its best combining what Aiden's grade level is from the syllabus that he had added along with the prompt that he just gave. And so now here are the questions that it's come up with. So now, Aiden, you can edit, you can reorder, you can delete these, you can add your own questions. And if you scroll just a little bit lower, you can also give Keep going, keep going, keep going. So not quite right, let's adjust them. So this is where you can give feedback to Coral and say, focus more on
here.
Yeah, or make them harder or make them easier.
Then I'll do update all questions and then just update the coordinates.
Yep, you got it. So now it'll take your feedback and rewrite those questions, and we can now see what changes they have done. How do those look, Aiden?
That's better.
Okay.
So
you probably massage these a little bit if we were on a live call here, but for now, we can just continue.
All right.
Okay, so now let's just talk about what I think is very important for all of us on this call. How exactly do we assess? So for oral assessments, we have 3 different ways that you can add your rubric. So the first is AI graded. So this is similar to what you just saw me do with the role play, where our AI will come up with a rubric and you can edit that. Now we take our best stab at it and it's pretty good. So you might want to do that. But if you prefer, you can also add manually model answers. So you can say, I have a very specific idea of what a 10 out of 10 looks like for this question. You can put that in and Coral will assess to see what's the closest or the similar answers based on that. Or the third option is your rubric. So if you have your own rubric, we're actually working on a way right now where you can just upload a screenshot of it if you have it elsewhere, and we will essentially convert that into an oral friendly rubric using yours as a base. Open book mode, let's just talk about really quickly. If you really want to make sure that your students are not referencing their notes or cheating or tab switching, then you would just enable open book mode off because you don't want them to check their notes. You don't necessarily want to track that. If you leave it off, we will actually flag if they're tab switching and we'll let you know. And then you can review that individual and essentially check and discern for yourself if you think that's warranting some sort of follow-up with the student. So allow students to retake the test. Why would you want to turn this on? Well, sometimes you want the students to practice and retake an assessment so that they habitually build that conversational muscle. So actually, Ryan Downey here, when he first tried Coraltalk, he actually had his students retake this multiple times. They were psychology students and they were in a therapeutic setting where they were taking the feedback that they would get after a role play and then applying it and trying to get a better grade, and progressively they started to get better. So that's one example. Just be aware that if you have the students retaking the test, you are obviously using more credits. So depending on your price point, that can make you go over, but we'll talk about what that looks like at the end of the call. Okay, let's move on to the last step. So for now, Aiden, if you can just turn on open book mode, because we want you to be able to tab switch so you can stay with us in this call. Perfect.
So open book mode then.
Yep. And then click on
graded and continue.
Perfect. Continue. Okay. So now just like before, Coral is going to come up with the evaluation criteria. So just scroll down. For now, we'll just pretend like this has your blessing. This will load. There you go. And then hit create. Okay, so now you have a link, just like with the role play, that you can share with your students, and they can have this conversation with Coral and get graded.
So Perfect. You're seeing now the new one?
Yes, and so you see at the top right, the student is able to see the rubric before they start, so they know what they're getting graded on and what they're looking for. Yeah, it's the same rubric that Aiden just created using AI. And Aiden, when you're ready, feel free to start. You don't have to do the whole thing. Maybe just answer the first 2 questions and end the call. You'll see an end call on the bottom of the screen, and then come back here.
Hi, Aiden. The title of today's chat is called Non-Formal Methods Connection of Method to Goal. Ready to get started?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's start with the first question. Given the aim of fostering critical thinking in non-formal education, Propose a method that could be used to achieve this and explain how it relates to the educational goals.
In non-formal education, in order to achieve creative thinking, what we could do is we can come up with group challenges that they need to achieve a certain goal together, and then they have limited resources, for example, and then when they have to use those limited resources to solve the problem, that will involve not critical, but creative thinking. If we're talking about critical thinking, no, thinking about creative, we always need to see and learn what information we have in front of us. So what we would do is we could play a game where the kids get some false facts and some true facts, and they have to go on a discovery hunt in order to see which ones are true or false.
I appreciate how you distinguish between creative and critical thinking, and your examples of group challenges with limited resources and the discovery hunt with facts show good understanding of practical methods for fostering critical thinking. Moving forward, if the value of community engagement is central to a non-formal education program, suggest a method to integrate this value and describe its potential impact.
What we would do is we would take our group and then we would discuss a point of pain, something that bothers us in our community, and then we will think about a way how together we could change this or make a small impact. And then as a group, the group will plan a course of action and then bring this action into fruition during the activity. And that is how we connect the whole senior community and then also acting with your community or towards your community.
I like how you emphasized identifying community pain points and taking collective action that directly connects learning to real-world community impact. To achieve the aim of enhancing cultural awareness in learners, identify a suitable method and explain.
All right, let's start with the second one.
Okay. So that just gives you an idea. The voice, I noticed, sounded like it had helium for the first bit. I looked over at my co-founder and I knew what was going on, but I think it's because we added that Hebrew language to your account, that there's something going on there. But that shouldn't have happened. Normally it doesn't. It's normally a pretty consistent voice. And if you recognize it, that was my voice clone. So if any of you actually want to clone your voice, talk to us separately after this call, and we can make it so that the students feel like they're talking to you. So click on see my grade, and just like before, this is what you would see for the students. So again, based on your criteria, how did they do? You'll be able to rewatch the video, review the AI summary, and then edit this evaluation if at any point you disagree. Thank you so much, Aiden. You can stop sharing your screen for now. And next, we're going to talk about what seems to be everybody's favorite feature. VidTickets, if anyone has heard of Flipgrid, is essentially us bringing back Flipgrid from the dead. So what is Flipgrid? Well, let's actually just make one here. It's a way for you to record a selfie video and then have the students respond with a selfie video answer. And once they submit it, they can see what everybody else had said. How are you dealing with AI cheating? For example, in your class, you can set the length. These are meant to be quite short. You can enable the transcript view, and then this one is usually recommended when you have students that maybe you just have a massive class size, or maybe you have students that are under the age of 18 and you want to make sure that you approve the video before the others can see it. So in that case, just keep this turned on, and then you record your question. How are you currently dealing with AI-based cheating in your classroom? What tools do you wish you had? Share your learnings here. So you record a quick video, you hit create vid ticket, and then just like before, you get a link that you can share with your students. And then when the student clicks on it, they'll be able to rewatch your video. How are you currently dealing with, and then record their response. Well, I use this cool tool called Coraltalk, and it makes spoken assessment scalable using AI. And because students have to speak in real time, explain their thinking, it actually prevents AI-based cheating. And then they would submit their recording, give it a quick title, and then once they submit it, they can see what others have said. So eventually, I'm showing you kind of it's just me here in this video, but I'd love to show you what this looks like when a real educator actually uses this and when it gets populated and there's like a number of students that are responding. So switching tabs now. So this is a real example of how he used VidTickets. So he had asked his students, what did you learn from this other project? So this is him recording his question.
Hi, I wanted to reflect on one of the projects that you saw today, or if you're doing this the day after, you saw yesterday at class. Not the one that you were part of, but for another company. And if you...
And then you can see all the students here have responded. If the student hasn't submitted their response yet, this is what they'll see. They can see that people have said things, but they can't watch them until they submit their own. So let's do that right now. So I'll record my response to Professor Mikanowski. Honestly, I just want to see these responses, but I'm sure this was a really great activity. And then we'll hit submit, and now we'll unlock everything. Okay, so there we go. Okay, I just needed to refresh. There we go. So there's all of the students' lovely faces, and here are the conversation threads. You can see the student has kind of had his response at this question, and then these are students that are recording video responses to him. So this is a really cool way to facilitate peer-to-peer learning, debates, get engagement going, and even share this if you're one of those educators that have like a social media page. You can download these videos, obviously with student consent, and show it there. I want to also just bring your attention to what this looks like when you have multiple submissions for an oral assessment. So this is Masha using it earlier this year. And you can see eventually you have it populated. We link with Canvas, and whatever LMS you are using, we'll probably have that ready before September. And we have a table view as well, where you can see all of the submissions of your students, watch it back in real time, edit them, and eventually you'll be able to get insights the more you use this to know where the students might be struggling as a whole. Okay, and the last thing I'll talk about just really, really quickly, we're gonna zip through this one, is the 24/7 student assistant. So this is pretty much a chatbot that's trained on your course materials, very low hallucination rate. Addie and the team has worked really hard to make sure that this is the case. You would essentially drag and drop all of your course materials, your syllabus, files, any text that maybe doesn't exist into those, websites, social media if you want. You can also add your lectures so that when students ask questions like, what did Professor Liban say the other day in class? Can you get him to elaborate more on this concept? And then Coral will respond specifically quoting you and what you had mentioned. And if it's unsure, it will actually just say, I'm not sure. Go and talk to your teaching assistant, talk to your professor. Here's their contact information. We link with Canvas, and the Moodle integration is live now too. And we're working on others. So if either of those are all set, if you use a different one, let me know and we can add it to our roadmap. And then here's where it gets kind of fun. You can also personalize so that this matches your teaching style. So we know that some educators like to be really direct in how they respond to questions. Others like to be descriptive, and others like to use the Socratic method where they ask the student questions so that they arrive at their own responses. So you can personalize this to kind of match your teaching style. And then you can also change the appearance. You can add your school logo, you can add your profile picture, and you can also just embed this so it could look like a little chat bot on whatever website you use to teach. Or they can just come in here, you can share the student link, and when you do, the students will essentially open a page that looks like this, and they can have a chat. It works with text, but it also works in any language. If students are more comfortable, they can speak in whatever language they like and get on back with the voice mode as well. back over here one last time. And then once the students are actually having conversations, you'll be able to review all of the chat history, and this will be recorded, documented for you. And then you'll also be able to see where students might be struggling. So that brings us to the end of our live demo time. I know there's so much to cover still, and I'm sure some of you would want some additional hand-holding. We're here to help. We're going to stay on for the next half hour after this. We're going to have a live now 10-minute Q&A period, and then we can make sure that you're set up, excited, and ready to use this for your course.